There is some welcome news today with regard to government guidance on gender questioning children, non-statutory guidance for schools and colleges in England. I say that it's welcome. It comes 7 years after this issue was first raised with us through the case of Nigel and Sally Rowe, where we began to see the danger that schools and children, particularly children, were being put in because of the gender ideology movement. And this is recognised actually in this guidance, that it's a movement that is actually behind all of this. And the danger that that would pose to children, yes, children as young, well, really very young, not just primary school children, but we've got situations where it goes right into nursery level ages. So today we welcome this guidance because it at least states there is a problem. It doesn't flow with the gender ideology. And that's really been the push that groups like Stonewall, Mermaids, Educate and Celebrate have been pushing for so long. It's those groups in many ways that have been behind the cases that we've seen. I am really pleasantly surprised that in this document the government says this. In recent years, we've seen a significant increase in the number of children questioning the way they feel about being a boy or a girl, including their physical attributes of sex and the related ways in which they fit into society. This has been linked to gender identity ideology, the belief that a person can have a gender that's different to their biological sex. This is the government actually acknowledging that it's a recent phenomenon and that it's driven by gender identity ideology. This is really important, and this has been something that we have been talking about for the past decade. And it says the changing picture has left schools and colleges in a position where they are having to navigate a highly sensitive, complex issue which is still not properly understood. Well, the truth is this: biology is biology. God said, Genesis 1, that we're made in the image of God, male and female. This cannot be changed. We have immense compassion for those that are confused about their biological sex, that have gender confusion, that are gender distressed. But the solution is not to introduce policies and plans across our public institutions, across our hospitals, across our schools, across public debate, that rip up the truth of biological sex, that actually say that we can change our gender day by day. This is the kind of way that we've gone in schools. It's really good that the government acknowledges that social transition is not a neutral act. It's not a neutral act. It has an impact across the whole class, and that there should be a cautious approach. Well done, government. The overarching principles the government say is this: there is no general duty to allow a child to socially transition. That's good. Parents should not be excluded from decisions taken by a school or college relating to requests for a child to socially transition. Of course, this is really important. And indeed, at the Christian Legal Centre, we've had a number of cases where parents have been threatened with social services unless they approve of their child's so-called gender transition. The idea that parents can be threatened with the removal of their children unless they comply is really very deeply disturbing. And it's good to know in these overarching principles, in these guidelines, that parents cannot be excluded, that they are included. Another overarching principle 4, says that schools and colleges have specific legal duties that are framed by a child's biological sex. A child's legal sex is always the same as their biological sex. That's fact. That's really important. It's truth. It's the government doing truth. Then we look through the language in this guidance. The language used in this area has evolved over recent years. So it talks about the evolution of language. And the guidance has tried to use language in terms that provide clarity, avoid colloquialism, and capture the range of children's experiences, from questioning their gender through to gender distressed or dysphoria. We've not used the term transgender to describe children. This is really important. It's really important not to impose an ideology on a child, not to impose something that isn't true on a child. Biological sex is the child's sex. To believe you are born in the wrong body is a matter of gender dysphoria. It is not something that you are. And it's something we must treat with immense compassion and immense love and immense care. But it can never be kind to affirm a child in their gender distress, in their gender confusion. And that is why I love and have stood by all our teachers. In these cases, Joshua, Sutcliffe, Hannah and others that we cannot name, who as a result of questioning, refusing to affirm the chosen gender of a child, or to say that a child is transgender, or to use their pronouns or names, have lost their jobs, been dismissed for gross misconduct, even taken off the registry to teach. That's Joshua Sutcliffe. Well, these must all be vindicated now. These must now be returned to their positions. They have stood, and because they stood, today we see that the government understands the difficulties that they were in, and indeed how wrong it is. It also talks about allowing for a watchful waiting period, for making parents aware of what's going on, for understanding that the age of children is really important. Requests from younger children in primary schools should be treated with great caution. Yes, this is the case of Nigel and Sally Rowe. They were scoffed at, they were ostracised from their school community in which they'd really been involved. They were called by their Church of England school, from the Church of England authorities, homophobic and transphobic bullies. And yet today they are vindicated by this guidance. We say thank you to the government for that. The really hotly contested issue of pronouns. Well, again, thank you to all those brave teachers, the brave doctor, David Macareth as well, who've stood so strongly on these issues. Because again, in this guidance, what are we told? Agreeing to a child's request to have others use different pronouns about them is a significant decision. Primary age children should not have different pronouns to their sex-based pronouns used about them. This is really strong language by the government. Is shifting away from the gender ideology that is all over guidance at the moment, because it talks about sex-based pronouns and it doesn't talk about preferred pronouns. It talks about different pronouns. So here we're in the territory of different pronouns according to the guidance versus preferred pronouns. It says that this is a very significant decision to choose to use a different pronoun, and that in primary school age, they should not have different pronouns. Now, some of our teachers in our schools, and indeed doctors, would not be losing their jobs if this guidance were adhered to. So thank you to the government, and thank you to Christian Concern, and for all that we have done in the past 10 years on this issue. Another brilliant piece of guidance in this document is this: single-sex spaces. Schools must always protect single-sex spaces with regard to toilets, showers and changing rooms. This is actually excellent, because again, what we've seen is the push, even in primary schools, for this not to occur. And we've had some really distressing stories of other children in the classroom wetting themselves, not going to the toilet all day, not drinking, because they've become so distressed about the toilet situation in their schools, primary age children. With regard to sport, there's a recognition that girls and boys are different. There's a recognition that boys are stronger. There's a recognition that boys constitute more of a risk to girls because they're generally stronger, larger and heavier, especially when they're going through or have been through puberty. It would not be safe for a biological boy to participate in certain sports as part of a teenage girls' team. Where sports are deliberately mixed sex, such as mixed netball, there should be no cause for concern. Again, this is just common sense. It's common sense, it's biological reality. So, I say to the government today, well done on this guidance. It's only guidance. It doesn't have the force of statute. I say well done to Christian Concern, well done to the Christian Legal Centre, well done every single time for standing with the parents and the teachers and the doctors and the school governors who've raised this issue. Why? Because they care about truth, because they care about the fact that we're all made in God's image, that each one of us is precious, male and female, that each one of us deserves and does best with the truth. Well done. Well done for this. But you know, the government has now put this document out for consultation for 9 weeks. There's going to be a backlash. Now is the time for us to say thank you to the government and do not desist, continue, do not weaken this. Let's make sure that this is made even stronger in the days and weeks ahead. Thank you to the Department of Education. Thank you to the government. Thank you to Christian Concern. But let's keep really energised about this and ensure that the government knows that we're pleased with this so far and we want it to be even stronger. Thank you.